Let me show you how simply it works. You just sprinkle a little on the turned up earth and mix it in. Plants thrive in Krilium-treated soil, and I'll tell you why. When Krilium enters into clayey soil, a very remarkable thing happens, because Krilium is made up of molecules that have a very special character. Each molecule of Krilium is electrically charged, and each molecule exerts a powerful attractive force. When the soil is cultivated, the Krilium molecules become mixed in with the soil aggregates, and they immediately go to work. Their electrical charges cause them to be attracted toward each soil aggregate, and they fasten themselves into the soil particles, entangle themselves, and bind the particles together. This action goes on all through the soil, and the small aggregates join together to make larger ones. Now, when water strikes the soil, instead of disintegrating, the Krilium-bound soil aggregates hold their structure. The water is able to penetrate the porous soil easily. Some of it is absorbed and held by the aggregates. The rest moves down to the subsoil level as it should. Held in this way by the aggregates, the water is evenly distributed and available for plant use. Because the Krilium-treated aggregates lie loosely against each other instead of caking together, fresh air can move down between them, furnishing oxygen, and the carbon dioxide has a chance to escape. The soil is able to breathe. I took a handful of Krilium-treated earth from my flower bed, and I told the young lady to pick up a handful from her side of the fence. Now watch what happens when we water these two samples, I said. The Krilium-treated soil stays crumbly and porous. Even when I squeeze it, the aggregates don't disintegrate. Your soil turns to sticky clay mud. No wonder your plants couldn't grow in it.
It wasn't too late to start all over again, and this time we were going to do it right. We got the Krilium and read the instructions that come inside the container. We waited until the soil was neither too wet nor too dry, and then we laid out our flower bed and spaded the earth to a depth of about 6 inches. Mr. Harrington told us that would give us plenty of room for root development. We sprinkled on the Krilium. Not much, just dusting it on evenly and lightly, using the proper amount for the size of the seed bed. Next step, we turned the Krilium under, mixing it well down into the soil. Mr. Harrington was careful to explain that Krilium is not a fertilizer, it's purely a soil conditioner. You have to put in whatever else your soil needs in the way of enrichment. So after we had added the fertilizer, we fined the earth, breaking it up well, and raked it down smooth, so that the little seedlings wouldn't have to knock their tender heads against any big clods on the way up to the surface. And now it was ready for planting. I put in lilies, because after all our disappointments, I really did want something proud and spectacular to make up for it. And we just got in under the wire with some hardy late annuals. We'd have a lot to show before frost. We water the seed bed lightly to start the Crillium working. After a few hours, we'd water it thoroughly again. Jim made a little experiment. He turned the hose on the untreated soil, and it slaked right down into mud. Now that I knew a little bit about it, I was appalled to think how many beautiful flowers we had condemned to death in that clayey soil before we knew about Crillium. The treated soil stayed crumbly and porous, and we knew it was that way right down to the bottom of the bed.
When fall came, the kids were ready for a front lawn. They sure needed one. They'd never put in a lawn before, and they had some misgivings. They had a problem, all right. There was quite a slope, and erosion had already gotten a bad start in some spots. If they had let it go, their topsoil would have gradually run right off down the street. Here was a job for Crillium to help with. It was too big a stretch to work by hand, so I advised them to use a rotary tiller. The soil was stony and hard-packed, but it wasn't long before they had it broken up well. After they'd raked the area smooth, I told them to broadcast their seed. And I showed them how to cross-sow the seed, so they could be sure it was evenly distributed. They smoothed out the overseeded spots, firmed down the seeds with an empty water roller. And then on top of it all, I told them to apply their Crillium. This surface application is wonderful for lawns, particularly for slopes where there's danger of topsoil washing away. When Crillium is sprinkled and left on the surface this way, it forms a film which doesn't prevent the absorption of water, but ties the surface particles of soil together so that the rain will not carry them off. After the Crillium has been spread over the seeded lawn, you spray it lightly, just enough to wet the surface. This activates the Crillium. From now on, you don't have to worry about your lawn getting washed out before it germinates. You're all set.
Mr. Harrington showed us another way to use Crillium, for planting shrubs and such. First, have your husband dig a fine, deep hole. The exercise will keep him in good condition along with the soil. Check moisture content of soil, see instructions. Mix proper amount of Crillium into soil. Knead well. Put about 3 inches of treated soil into the hole first, then set your shrub down on top of it. Fill part way with treated soil. Trample down so there are no air pockets. Now, female ingenuity needed for this. Turn on hose and water lightly to activate the Trillium molecules. Have husband put in more soil. Sprinkle lightly, and remember to let the Trillium work for 8 hours before you water again thoroughly. Then, call neighbors to admire. We tried Trillium with soil for our window boxes, too. The directions are on the container. You can't go wrong. Just mix it into the earth well. Put in your seeds. Sprinkle. And put the box in the window. You know what? We have a lawn. You know what? We have flowers in our window box. And slowly but surely, the garden I dreamed of has become a reality. The hard, disheartening earth that resisted all our efforts has become friendly, workable soil, yielding new miracles with every changing season. Year after year, our garden grows more beautiful. And every year, I observe a very personal anniversary. On this day, I pick an extra lavish bouquet and give it to my neighbor, both in thanks and in memory of a certain bouquet she once gave me, before I was garden-wise.
Oftentimes, children have no problems falling asleep during nap time, but there are those days, well, they just resist it. Now, when they do, is this considered being guilty of resisting arrest?
Say what?
No, as a child can be guilty of, I mean, how can a child be guilty of something like that? They're a child. No, that's ridiculous.
Technically, yeah.
If a child won't lie down and take a nap during nap time, would they be considered guilty of resisting arrest?
Say what?
No.
Yes, I don't think they're resisting arrest. They're doing okay.
Are you doing just fine? Yes. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm fine, fine, fine. Wait a minute, you gotta say it with an attitude. I'm fine, fine, fine. You know, and I teach women to be bold, be confident, be sassy, be sexy, be authentic, be true. How many of us in here really are fine? I am. Who God says I am. Who God says I am. And guess what? You're all beautiful queens. You know, when you take off the weave and the wig and all that, just say, excuse me. The